So how do you feel when you're driving up to a stoplight, let's say on Broadway, downtown Oakland, and as you're going towards the light, you see in the median a person with a sign, veteran, homeless, will work for food, I need help. How do you feel when you're on that street that leads us into Emeryville, where you're going towards Bay Street to go shopping, but before you get there, there's a tent community there. Refuse all in the street, on the sidewalks. How do you feel when you are watching television, news program, and you hear sad stories about hungry children in other places whose lives seem like at least doomed, and they're no more than 2 or 3 years old? How do you feel? Well, I think most of us feel compassion, and we feel maybe uncomfortable, and we feel maybe helpless. So our feelings are not all the same, right? We have different feelings depending on where we are when we experience what we're experiencing, when we see what we see. But I would think it's fair to say that most of us would feel some compassion, especially when we see the folks who are hungry, who are in need of help, and we feel that they're there through no fault of their own. And so because we feel that, and because we want to make a difference, because we want to help, and most of us do, we volunteer, or we contribute, we give something, or we do something. And we do this without, not all of us, but I would say most of us, we do this without fully thinking out the consequences of what we're doing. We want to help, but is the help we're offering really helpful? Or is it possible that in our desire to help, we're not alleviating the problem we're trying to alleviate, but we're actually inadvertently adding to the problem? And that sounds strange. How can you help and hurt at the same time? Well, that's what we want to reflect on during this Lenten season. When we gather together in small faith-sharing groups, we, as a parish family, we want to spend some time looking at how we help individually and how we help collectively, how we help near and how we help far, and are we doing what we want to do in a way that's actually helpful to the people that we're trying to help. We haven't been able to do it for a couple of years, but we used to have about 40 of our teens and an equal number of adults that once a year we went into Mexico for a bill. It was into Tijuana. And it was a powerful experience for our teens, and a powerful experience for the adults who went with them. And it wasn't unusual for them, when they came back, they would give a testimony. They would share with us what that experience was like. And it was powerful. I don't want to minimize the experience for them. But the statistics, and they're out there, the data shows a couple of things. That while it moved them in the moment and moved us in the moment, in the long term, it has little or no effect on us. And that in some ways, it was more moving for us than it was for the people we were trying to help. Think about it. So let's think you're a day laborer. You have a contract, a little company. You're a contractor. And as a day laborer and a contractor, you like to build homes. That's how you make your money. That's how you get paid. And these 80 folks come in from outside, and they build a home without using you as a day laborer, without buying any of your supplies. Did that help you? And they build it at 3 times, 4 times, 5 times the cost of what it would have cost you to build it. Those are things we don't think about. That would be good for us to think about. During this season of Lent, a time when we dedicate ourselves to helping the poor, almsgiving for the poor. In the book that I'm reading in preparation for our time together, they tell the story of this faith community, let's say in Wisconsin. Wisconsin is on my mind this morning. So this little church community out of Wisconsin, evangelical, Bible believers, really want to make a difference. And so they have a mission. They have a mission that goes into various countries in Central America and South America once a year to make a difference. So this faith community goes into this village, in Honduras to help. They get there and they find out that they desperately need water in their village. Because the women of that village, they walk 5 miles to get the water in the lake and 5 miles to bring the water back to the village. And they do that every day. No matter what the weather's like, that's their job. Because if they don't do it, what happens? No water. And we don't have water. How long can we go without water? 3 days. So if they don't do it, you guys, the village suffers tremendously. So the mission community, the mission folks from that Wisconsin church, they said, okay, well, let's do this. Let's get that water from the lake, and let's dig a well and make a well, and let's bring in a pump, and let's make it happen. So let's bring the water from there to there. And they did it. And the folks in the village were thrilled, especially the women. So they left, feeling really good. I mean, they did a good thing. Let's not minimize what they did. They come back the next year. Guess what? Guess where they see the women? Walking to the lake, getting the water and bringing it back to the village. What happened? The pump broke. So they fixed the pump, left, came back the next year. They found the ladies walking to the lake, returning to the village because the pump broke. George, what did somebody figure out? Say it. Why not show them how to fix the pump? Which is what they did. They wanted to give, but then they thought about what's the best way to give this community that will be sustainable for this community. They taught someone how to fix the pump. And so when they returned the next year, there was water in the village. They had so much water in the village that the villagers, being good entrepreneurs, were selling water to villagers nearby. So they empowered them, made them more independent and less dependent. One of the things I discovered, and I think if you're part of this, our small faith sharing groups, you're going to discover When we think of poverty and problems like that, what do we want to do? We want to go into our pockets, give them money, or fix it, right? But when you talk to the poor who are on the receiving end, yes, they need that kind of help, but what they're more concerned about, equally concerned about, is a sense of self-worth, self-esteem, empowerment. So a job, exactly. So if we're doing it for them, they become dependent on us. And the very thing we want to do for them, we fail to do. You've all heard the old adage. You can feed a person a fish, and they'll eat for a day. You teach them how to fish, and they'll eat for a lifetime. I think there's something else that we need to do sometimes. They still might need us to buy the pole so they can do the fishing. So it's not like our money isn't helpful. Not like they don't need material things from you and me, but they need more than that. They need you and I to help them help themselves. That's what we're going to talk about during the season of Lent. So what do you think? Is it worth it? Is it worth our time, our 6 weeks together? I say it is. Like I said, we're a compassionate people. We want to help. But I don't think there's anyone here who wants to help by hurting someone else. That's what we're going to focus on. Helping without hurting. Amen? Amen.